We're back at it again like a couple of masochists.
We're back sooner than expected because Tanner is going on a solo vision quest in the desert next week, and we didn't want you guys to have to wait another week to watch episode 2 of Charly because we know a lot of you are very gripped.
As are we.
As are we. I'm trying to, quell the anxiety I feel about reading more of this by drinking this CBD drink by Recess. Use code SAMSPO to get 15% off any order.
Delicious. The calming help and adaptogen-infused sparkling water, Calm Cool Collected, is really a nice beverage.
Is truly an antidote to modern times. Quick self-promo time. I've been making tons of TikToks, kind of like the style of Zelf, like kind of self-helpy advice, discussing mindfulness things, so go follow me on TikTok.
I am also on TikTok, doing less mindfulness and more just whatever is random. Sometimes comedy, sometimes
the sexiest video you've ever seen.
Sometimes it's the sexiest cinematic footage you've ever seen.
Yeah,
Check
you do not want to miss out on Tanner's TikTok content. We also have a Zelf TikTok.
_art.
Chapter 2 of Charly.
Woo!
You're in a better mood today.
Trying to manifest positivity. Mm-hmm. I'm accepting whatever comes my way.
And we got some new patrons after the last video. So welcome, new patrons to our channel. Okay, so give us a recap of what you remember from chapter 1.
Honestly, I was dissociating, depersonalized through most of it, and then afterward I just went home and slammed like 12 beers, hit myself in the head with a hammer, and passed out. I didn't want to remember anything.
Okay, well, basically chapter 1, Sam, straight-laced Mormon boy from Utah, meets Charly, philosophical hussy from New York, daughter of her father's business associate. They go on a date. She's like, oh, is there some way I can learn about your religion? Banksy, please.
He's talking about how he feels about it.
Talking to the mic if you have opinions. Yeah, they kind of had... Well, I feel like they're doing this sort of rom-com trope where they're sort of really mean and don't like each other and then they fall in love. Anyway,
yeah.
They've gone... Well, I guess they've gone out once to the Ferris wheel, had a nice time. Then they did a missionary lesson and she was like, Sam, you're crazy. When he was like, let's pray in this orchard.
Also, they started talking about the missionary lesson, and I was like, when did she have this? Like,
he didn't feel the need to write that.
I feel like all the important stuff he just glosses over, and then all the trivial stuff he just like on and on.
Jack Wayland has a very innovative approach to plot advancement where he spends a long time on things that don't matter whatsoever and no time at all on the main plot points.
Can I be earnest for a second?
Absolutely.
I don't want to discourage Jack Wayland from writing through this, this roasting. Mm-hmm. I would rather that this book have been written than not written. And people should write their books, sing their songs.
Yeah. I mean, he's created a book that is... People love this. I mean, so many people in the comments, even ex-Mormons, are like, oh, this still has a place in my heart. I think if you create anything that people are touched by and love, like, good for you.
Yeah.
You've done something good.
Now we're going to roast the hell out of you, Jack.
But we reserve the right to roast the hell out of you, just as everyone reserves the right to roast the hell out of us, but please don't, I can't take it.
The best birthday party I ever had was when you arranged for all of my friends to roast me. Mm-hmm. It was really, really fun.
It was the only stand-up I've ever done, and I think I killed it.
Yeah, everybody killed it. Mm-hmm. It was amazing.
Yeah, that was really fun. Okay, chapter 2 of Charly. A week later, I took Charly fishing at Strawberry Reservoir. We left at 4 a.m. I just think that's right. Anyway.
It's like he's writing in his journal.
I don't have a joke. I'm just like, why? When we arrived, I rented a boat, rowed to my favorite spot, threw out both anchors, and started to fish.
Ooh, anchors. I didn't know that was like super necessary on like a tiny boat.
She curled up in an old army blanket and went to sleep. By the time she woke up, I had caught 4 nice trout. The sun had come and driven off the patches of fog from the lake, and 10 other boats had joined us. She studied the people in the boats near us, who were all quietly watching their lines. Suddenly she stood up, cleared her throat, and with a Kissinger-like accent addressed the other boaters. What's a Kissinger-like accent?
Is that Henry Kissinger?
I've heard that name, but is that
a politician? No idea. We're about to find out. It sounds politician-y. It sounds like the if I just had to guess, I would say he was influential in creating the military-industrial complex.
Sounds about right, yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to do an accent either way, so
yeah.
He's an American politician.
National Security Advisor under the administration of Richard Nixon.
Anyway.
Sounds about right.
All right, so she stood up, cleared her throat, and addressed the other boaters. I suppose you know why we've asked you all here this morning. If it meets with your approval, we'll dispense with the minutes and proceed. The boaters glanced at her with disbelief. Because some of you have been putting marshmallows on your hooks, the Utah Fish and Game Department, hereafter referred to as the UFGD, has asked me to speak today. Clinical reports just released indicate that the fish in this lake have 53% more cavities. She paused and then yelled sharply, "Do you know what this means?"
Okay, I'm going to already go ahead and say, I feel like if Charly was a real person, she would have been really smart and made that acronym something important, like, or something funny, like fuck, like fishing under conservative kingship, otherwise known as fuck.
She waited for an answer, but she's also out there, isn't she? She's really into the whole...
She's the Mormon Manic Pixie dream girl.
She commits to the bit.
And this will be the story about how her wings were snipped.
She waited for an answer, but nobody spoke. Most tried to ignore her, but that was hard to do. It means the UFGD must now stand the expense of sending a trout through dental school. Charly, I said. Yes, Utah, she answered demurely. Normally we don't talk between boats. So sit down and be quiet.
Wow, a demand, not a request. Your marriage is going to be awesome.
Woo! She sat down. I baited her hook and threw it out. In a few minutes, her line began to feed out smoothly and steadily. When she set the hook, I could tell it was going to be big. Screaming and giggling, doing an impersonation of Captain Ahab pursuing Moby Dick, she reeled in the line and soon I dipped the net into the water and brought up a 4-pound trout.
She sounds like a good time. And I mean that in the most respectful way.
Kind of. After I'd taken care of the fish, she stood up again. Do you want to know how I caught this fish? I used peanut butter on the hook. It sticks well and it does not, I repeat, cause little fish cavities. Quickly, I pulled in both anchors and began to row away. We recommend creamy instead of chunky, she yelled as her parting shot.
Wow, she has embarrassed him.
Yeah, wow.
A male.
Poor guy. There's nothing worse than a lard woman. Sam, where are we going? Away. Is the fishing better where we're going? No. Oh, I embarrassed you. Is that it? Go ahead and say it. You embarrassed me. You've got no sense of fun, do you? Life is for laughing. I laugh. No, you smile faintly. Relatable. To prove her wrong, I laughed. Even to me, it sounded weird. No good. Too forced. It's not spontaneous. I laugh responsibly. Sounds like you as a Mormon.
Really nailing it here.
And could you define that for us, Senator? After the work is done, if there's time left over, then I laugh and have fun.
You gotta laugh during the work, Utah.
You've got it all backwards. You're supposed to laugh during the work.
I did the reading before.
That's one of the things that's wrong with you. You never do anything spontaneous. All the time in your head, little gears whirl. She dipped a cup into the lake and threw the water at me. I continued to row, my head dripping water. No, Sam, you're supposed to stop rowing and throw some water on me. It's what we call a water fight. Can you say that for me, dear? Water fight. It's one of those happy, spontaneous things people do in this dull world. I continued to row silently. Sam, does someone plug you in at night to charge up your battery pack? Did the water damage your memory bank? Sam, speak to me so I'll know you're human. The water here is deep. If the boat were to capsize, it'd be dangerous. I headed the boat back towards the dock. Why should the boat capsize? She asked apprehensively. I kept on rowing. At the dock, I unloaded the fishing gear and my shoes before heading out a little way from the shore. Then I took my string and measured the depth. Why did you put those things on the dock and then come out here? She asked. I sat down beside her in the boat. The water here is only 5 feet deep, I said. I guess I shouldn't have dumped water on you, right? So I'm not spontaneous enough, is that it? Oh, it's really nothing, she said meekly. With a sudden lunge, I pushed her into the lake. You dirty rat, she yelled after she came up again.
This phone is not waterproof. This is 1996.
I'm laughing now, Charly. Do you hear me? You computer. That's the nicest thing anyone has ever said to me. The flirting is just, wonderful. When I tried to help her into the boat, she rocked it sharply, throwing me also into the water. That's very literary. That's some...
Is it against the commandments to be in natural water with a woman?
Sort of seems like it would be. It's like the clothes might be clinging to her. I mean...
Yeah. We have no idea what she's wearing.
Okay, scene change. How much more time are you going to be spending with Charly? My father asked one morning at breakfast. I bet they're having that nut-like cereal again. I don't know, why? Her father called me into his office yesterday and made it perfectly clear that they don't want her to become a Mormon. Not much chance of that. Then why is she still taking the discussions? It's a hobby with her, tripping up the missionaries. Well, her parents are still worried, he said, reshuffling his newspaper for emphasis.
I love that it doesn't go over about her stumping, or, questioning the missionaries.
I know, we don't get to hear about that. And there's another thing.
Would love to hear that philosophical conversation.
Would love to see Jack Wayland write a philosophical character.
Oh, it would be
what's she actually like?
It would be like, did you ever see the movie God is Not Dead? Not Dead? Oh, someone mentioned it in the comments. It's, as a Mormon, believing, like, true blue Mormon, I saw it and I was like, this is the worst movie I've ever seen. This is so bad.
So the dad says, and there's another thing. What's that? Your mother and I are worried you might be getting interested in her. She's not a member of the church, and you know how we feel about the importance of temple marriage. I feel the same way, Dad. Good, then quit seeing her. You've done enough fellowshipping. Love this scene.
This is so weird.
No, why not? She's my friend. There are plenty of good LDS girls in our ward without you chasing her.
Okay, so they set the two parents set the most unlikely match people up for reasons that cannot possibly be understood, and then now it's taken a turn and they're like, what have we done? We've paired the two worst people together, and now it's being written off as like this like rebellious romance where, Dad, it's not even about the fellowshipping anymore. I've come to appreciate this Colombian twat for a precious daughter of God worthy of my interest and attention. Also, she's very hot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she is very hot. It's interesting how it's just normalized that a dad would be like, well, she's not a member of the church, you shouldn't. Like, something that is so normal in the church is don't date people that are not in the church because then you can't have a temple marriage. Like, people are pretty rebellious in the church if they date someone out of it. Which is, you don't get that with all religions. Like, some, depending on the orthodoxy of people. But, that's a pretty culty quality of a religion, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Being like, don't date outsiders. Don't fall in love with outsiders. Don't even be friends with outsiders, apparently. Anyway, I'm not chasing her. It's just that she loves to go fishing. I realised that wasn't quite accurate. All right, then limit your activities to fishing. Fine, I agreed nonchalantly, as if she didn't mean anything to me.
How old is this person? Is he 16? Is he...
But at the same time, wondering why I hadn't dated anyone else since I'd met Charly. That's why the only activities we shared for the next few weeks were listening to the missionary lessons and going fishing. Okay, so that's why because you would think the dad would be on board if she was taking missionary lessons in a normal situation, but because his business partner is like, we don't want her being Mormon, the dad is like respecting that. That's why, yeah. Okay,
is she like way more vulnerable than we were originally considering for someone to be so erratic in public?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, generally I feel like because she's not just being funny in public, she's being a little bit of like a showman in a way that I generally associate with like, what's going on there?
Yeah, like...
UK girl.
Especially out in nature.
Yeah, it's like, keep on. Yeah. That's why the only activities we shared for the next few weeks were listening to the missionary lessons and going fishing. 3 weeks later, we were back on Strawberry Reservoir in a boat.
Like, what has to be going on in her personal life to make this feel at all interesting?
Well, she's just moved to Utah. Well, she's in Utah for the summer.
There are so many cooler places than taking... Like, how do you get sucked into that?
Yeah.
As a university student?
Yeah, at Columbia. I mean, isn't there some, like...
You don't.
Study abroad thing you could be doing over the summer with, like, other rich Colombian
Literally
kids.
Anything
She's
else.
rich as well,
yeah,
so it's like...
She would come here to go to Sundance.
Yeah.
And she's not going with this himbo.
Himbo. Fishing was slow that day. You haven't said much about the church since I tried to pray with you. I decided to be fair. We Easterners are noted for our fairness. Yes, I've heard about the Salem witch trials, I counted. That's interesting that he would bring up the Salem witch trials. Let's unpack that for a minute. Because, Salem witch trials, essentially, were because of the patriarchy, right? Any woman that was too intelligent or protested the rules or, was in any way unique and not submissive to the patriarchy was labelled a witch and drowned, burned? Did it depend?
All the above.
Either. And I kind of feel like Mormonism and the mindset behind the Salem witch trials and the mindset that exists in Mormonism, they're not that different.
Mm-hmm. I was just thinking on the way over here how femininity, homosexuality, and like creativity and spirituality are all kind of linked together, and that really a lot of modern conservatism is literally just like the patriarchal structure that arose during the agricultural revolution, and now they're trying to defend it like it's this like huge thing, but it's only been a tiny part of human, let alone natural history, that like these things have been like needing to come back, and they do need to come back because, well, that's the patriarchy is all trying to squash that all down to so it can make its little money. Sorry, I'm going on a rant.
No, that's good. It's good.
Feeling it.
I mean, there's not a lot of content in the book. We need your rants. The rants are what makes this series. So he says, yes, I've heard about the Salem witch trials. Not bad, Sam. Stick with me and I'll make you a wit. You're halfway there now. She opened a sack of oranges, tossed one to me, and kept one for herself. For a few minutes, she concentrated on peeling her orange. Then quietly and soberly, she said, I've read the Book of Mormon. You have? I said, completely shocked, since around the missionary she never answered a question seriously. What do you think about it? You're not going to make us kneel in prayer in this boat, are you? She gently teased. Okay, I know that we already know how this book ends, but there's just still that part of me that's like hoping it's going to end differently, but there's no reason to think that would happen. Damn it, that light just broke. Well, welcome to our new lighting. That seems good.
The new paradigm.
No, just tell me how you feel about the Book of Mormon. For a long, serious time, she studied the ripples in the water, and then she began. Humor 'em all along, I said. Take the lessons, go to church, and then when the summer's over, leave 'em laughing. After all, it's just a part of the Utah tour.
No. Escalante is part of the Utah tour.
Zion, Bryce.
Moab.
I grew up in New York. As a child, my parents made sure I was exposed to culture and reason. The Museum of Natural History, the Hayden Planetarium, the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I know opera areas the way you know cowboy songs, she paused. Do you know what I'm saying? No, what are you saying? I'm an intellectual. I'm not one of your sweet farm girls. There's nothing sweet about me. And then you come to me with your 2.5-minute talks. Why not 3 minutes, for crying out loud? Wait, what's that all about? 2.5-minute talks.
I have no idea.
I don't get that. Sam, I was all set up to spend the rest of my life laughing at the world. There was so much to ridicule, so many balloons to pop. It'd take a lifetime. I love how Jack Wayland associates being an intellectual with just like ridiculing the world.
Criticizing.
Yeah.
If she was an intellectual at all, she would see how like, oh God, this is so sad. This is sad. Has Jack Wayland ever left Utah? Did he just Google like Eastern traditions and customs?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. Do you really think she grew up going to the opera?
He seems very hung up. I think he's projecting some of his shadow self here, his inferiority complex about having never left Utah.
Mm-hmm. And
having
maybe
never attended an opera.
It doesn't hurt that she's a hot woman, you know. Kind of ties in with everything. Anyway, don't give me a dissertation, Charly. What about the Book of Mormon? That's when the tears began to flow. What's wrong? It's true. Of all the rotten luck, it's true. This is so masturbatory.
We were not at all persuaded how a Columbian philosophy major was persuaded that Mormonism was all true. We didn't quite get that.
With the missionaries. Doesn't write the scene where she realizes it's true. It's like, this is the fantasy. They just read the Book of Mormon and then they're like, ah, shit, it's true. That's not how this works.
This is the equivalent of, like, right when the couple starts making love, the, like, curtain blows and it, like, pans out. This is that, like, all the interesting stuff just, like, and it all happened very perfectly in a way that's not worth explaining because I can't.
Also, she would have, if she's studying philosophy at Columbia, she would have already explored, like, I feel like you'd be pretty firm in the notion that feelings aren't a reliable indicator of truth. And also, why would she have feelings when reading the Book of Mormon? It's, what is it? Chloroform in print, as Mark Twain called it.
She's like, Sam, can we talk about epistemology really quickly?
He's like, what's that?
Is that some kind of Eastern?
So she said, of all the rotten luck, it's true. What is? I asked. The whole thing. The plates, the angels, all of it. She continued to cry. You mean you believe it?
Oh, no.
Sure.
This is chapter 2.
Sure, don't you? I ate my orange and wondered what I was supposed to say. Wouldn't you know what to say? Like, this is a returned missionary, isn't it?
I have no idea if he's 15 or...
Well, she's got to be at least 19.
He's like taking dating orders from his dad. I don't know.
Then why are you crying? He said. Don't you see? When fall comes and I go back to school and my friends come up and ask, did the Mormons get you? What do I say?
Oh, this is so bad.
I'm upset. Bear your testimony. They'll think I'm a fool.
Well, you were obviously very well persuaded and you should be able to convince them.
Yeah, your fellow Columbia philosophy cohort. What are you interested in, truth or pretense? You're asking me that? That's the same question I've been using as a weapon against the world up to now. Don't you see? I've been hoisted up on my own petard. First of all, what is a petard? Do you know, or should I Google?
I have no idea, but I would love to be one, I think. I would love to be hoisted up on one.
I'd love to be hoisted anywhere. Petard. A small bomb made of a metal or wooden box filled with powder.
Hoisted up on a petard?
It is of French origin and dates back to the 16th century. Cool.
Mormon Urban Dictionary.
I don't think it's a Mormon thing.
It's some kind of Eastern.
Hoisted by my own petard.
To be foiled by your own advantage.
Wow.
Does that mean like blown up by your own grenade? Is that the idea?
Yeah, I assume so.
Hoisted by my own petard.
That can be painful, I replied, touching my kneecap. I hurt my petard once playing baseball. Sam, 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 she said, tears still streaming down her face but with a slight smile creeping out. What have we done to each other?
She gave him a sense of humor.
See, at this point, I'm thinking, all right, so she is feeling very lacking in her life in whatever ways. Maybe she's being bullied at Columbia. I don't know what's going on there. She's at home. She's got a crush on this guy, or, you know, he seems like someone that could be a caretaker for her. So she's like, yeah, I guess I'll join this religion.
I think I get it. I think her dad actually is an alcoholic.
Oh, yeah.
I think she's got a
Child
bad
of
relationship.
addicted
She wants
parents.
someone who's like...
Yeah.
It's the same trap that you fell into.
Oh my God,
actually,
yes.
people think you got to be some kind of yokel to join a cult. That's actually not true. The prime targets for cults are like college intellectual people because it's just...
late teens is like the most prime of all.
Had you ever read Nietzsche?
I'd never read Nietzsche. To say that the announcement of her impending baptism brought everlasting joy and happiness would be wrong. Her parents were furious, and since my dad worked for her father, my parents were unhappy too. Isn't she? I mean, she's of age. Kind of seems a bit unrighteous of the dad to be unhappy. It's like, is your career more important to you than the gospel? Did you not covenant in the temple to give all of your time, talents, and whatever else
How
to
great
this
shall
religion?
be your joy in the kingdom of heaven.
I think this dad is like...
Brother Sam's dad.
He's on the edge, that's all I'll say. The best way to describe my parents is to say that they're the kind of people you find giving workshops at stake leadership meetings. Polished, poised, and perfect. My father doesn't even get messy when he works on the stake welfare farm. You're tearing their family apart, he accused me one evening. Sorry, Jesus is tearing their family apart? The truthfulness of the Book of Mormon is tearing their family apart.
Okay, this is your fault. Why did you put them together?
You said it was a missionary opportunity!
This is you.
Well, her parents aren't going to allow it. She's over 18. Are you suggesting she disobey her parents? My mother asked. Still the nameless mother. I'm just so curious.
Would you dare defy us, Samantha?
His legal name is Samantha. The church is true, isn't it? That stopped Mum for a while, but not Dad. Her father thinks, and I tend to agree, that she should give this some time, maybe a year or two. That way she can make sure it's what she really wants. She's very unstable sometimes. That resonates. Her father told me that last year she refused to eat grapes from California. Wait.
Did she have a very good reason? Was
That's
there a
the
pest?
example of her being unstable.
Was there like rat lungworm in California or something? What's going on?
I mean, she's at Columbia. I bet she would have a good reason.
Yeah, maybe she was just trying to eat local. I think they're a bit overbearing.
Maybe my mother joined the fight. You could encourage her to wait a year before she joins the church. And then I don't think you should see her for a while. Why shouldn't I see her, I asked. Because she's not a member of the church, she replied. Wow.
So, let me get this straight.
This is laying it
Let me
all
get this
bare.
straight. We've got to be meeting people we don't want to meet under obligation from our bosses and treat it as taking a responsibility from your boss and treating it like a cult recruiting opportunity and then getting mad when she gets interested in the cult and then further enhancing your sense of cult identity by saying you should only be hanging out with people in the cult. This is so nuts.
Wonderful. It's like, sorry, I'm too good at missionary work, Mum and Dad.
Sorry, I'm too good at emoting.
I tried to explain to Mum that what she was suggesting was the Mormon equivalent of Catch-22. But since she hadn't read that book, I didn't get very far.
You didn't
Women,
either,
they never
Sam.
read. I could have argued much more successfully with my parents than I did. In high school, I was a pro at disagreement. But after 2 years of being on a mission and receiving little homey letters from my mother and dictated business letters from my father, parentheses, he even sent me copies of talks he gave as a high counselor, I'd lost my enjoyment of making them squirm. Besides, after hearing my mother that night in family prayer plead for blessings for me, I decided to at least approach Charly. Are you getting baptized just because of me? I asked her on the phone. Yes. You mean because of your personal charm and magnetism? She teased. Something like that. My parents have, of course, brought that up, so I've thought about that. You're not too bad looking, you know. Maybe I'm doing it just to please you. It does please you, doesn't it? Only if it's because you believe it. Maybe it's just because of your charisma, except for one thing. What's that? It's hard to see how your charisma could reach out into my room while I read the Book of Mormon. Sam, when I read that book, I have a feeling. Or when I read that book, I have a feeling. I don't know how to describe it to you, but...
It's like wanting to throw myself off a bridge. Do you ever get that?
The, normalization of this idea that how... this is kind of the main thing that missionaries, kind of believe is true. Is, people will read the Book of Mormon and they'll just get a feeling.
Mm-hmm. We'd ask people, be like, what did you feel? And they're like, good. And we're like, well... Or they'd be like, yeah, what did you feel? Nothing. Well... do you normally feel good? And they're like, good. And you continued feeling good? Yes. Well, that's the Holy Ghost. We got another winner.
I always remember I've talked about this in a video before, but the testimonies that are I got down on my knees and prayed and I was like, I'm not leaving my knees till God tells me that this is true. And then eventually I realized, it's true. Just get up.
Yeah.
Yes.
So many endless praying nights being like, well, I guess I already know. And I guess I feel good about that. Therefore, I know it's true.
So she doesn't know how to describe it, but she feels that it's true. You want to know something else? I'm praying now, and you know what? Someone's listening. When I went the next Saturday to pick her up for afternoon stream fishing, we were confronted by her parents. I think it's ridiculous for my daughter to think about becoming a Mormon, don't you? Her father opened. No, not really. Dad, please, we've already gone over this. How could you let yourself be brainwashed into something like this? You know they'll make you pay 10% of your income, don't you? I don't have an income, but when I do, I'll pay tithing because I want to, not because anyone's forcing me. That's what we all say.
Again, how do you trust a guy, your, subordinate or whatever, who, to take out your daughter, and he's Mormon, and you're like, well, this must be, an upstanding guy. Why would you be upset if she's joining Mormonism if you've put so much, trust in this person?
What have you done to my daughter? Her father demanded. He got me in the middle of my lemonade. The question started me choking. Finally, with a red face, I gasped, I haven't done anything. He's right, Charly smiled. All we do is go fishing. Look, Charlene has a history of becoming fascinated with things and then losing interest. I'm sure the Mormon church doesn't want unstable converts, does it? Au contraire! What about the harp lessons? You begged us to buy you a harp, you took lessons for 6 months, and then absolutely refused to touch it again. Are those the workings of a stable person? Doesn't seem like a sign that someone's unstable. Yeah. It's it's fucking hard learning the harp. Daddy, that was in junior high school. Charly, if I may say something, her mother interrupted. The Mormons are always saying on TV that the family is important. If that's true, and if you believe in the Mormon teachings, then you should show it by helping your family stay united and strong.
Check in.
How do I do that? She asked. By not joining the Mormon church. Another catch-22. The discussion ebbed and... It's like saying... That's like the mother admitting, we refuse to stay united if you join the church. It's like, well, you as the mother could, just kind of choose to be okay with it to keep the family strong. I mean...
Also, I think the term catch-22 is going to be our threshold for philosophy in this book.
Another catch-22. The discussion ebbed and flowed while I quietly watched, nursing a lemonade made out of real lemons. I love that detail. Those are the details Jack likes to add in. This was better than a TV soap opera. An hour later, Charly obtained...
You wish.
He's never watched one. An hour later, Charly obtained reluctant permission to be baptized. I'm sure her father figured the whole thing would blow over in a while, just like the harp lessons. You know, my family and friends figured it would blow over for me, and I was like, no, never! And then it did, in fact, blow over. Kind of. I'm doing this YouTube channel, so it's how much is it?
I hope Charly ends up being a TikToker.
I baptized her the following Saturday. She was beautiful in white.
Oh.
When I dream about her now, I visualize her in white. Her parents didn't come. Wow. So much plot advancement.
Yeah, he's really just jetpacking this one.
Oh, and remember the first line of the book was at her funeral. Lest we forget.
Hear me out. I would record a second chapter.
I was thinking that. But I do think it should be a separate episode because
yeah.
this is already like 30 minutes. So maybe we change shirts.
Let's do it. Movie magic. This is Hollywood, baby. We're liberal.
We're elites.
You can't believe anything.
Okay, well, if you guys enjoyed this video, use Samspo to get 50% off Recess. Follow us everywhere. Subscribe on Patreon. Leave a comment. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you're not already, because a lot of you are lurkers on our channel. And that's the end. We're going to film another chapter now. Stay tuned. Bye.
Wow.